Have you ever felt a silent weight pressing against your chest when you think about the future of our planet? That whisper of despair that says it's too late, that nothing can be done? Before we go further, I ask you, breathe. And if these words touch you, give this video your support, like it, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Because what you're about to hear may shift the way your heart carries the weight of the earth. Eco-anxiety. It's not just an idea. It is the invisible ache of millions, perhaps yours. And yet, what if I told you that within this very pain lies a doorway, not to paralysis, but to liberation? Matthieu Ricard, the monk once called the happiest man alive, reveals how our minds are not prisoners of fear, but seeds of compassion waiting to awaken. We often believe the mind is at war with itself, torn between despair and denial. What if the true revolution is not in resisting the fear, but in embracing it, transforming eco-anxiety into a wellspring of love for the living world? The question is not whether the earth is in danger. We know it is. The question is, how will your mind respond? Will it drown in dread, or will it become the ground for a deeper awakening? Stay with me, for in the next few moments, you will discover that eco-anxiety is not the end of hope, it is the beginning of compassion. And that realization, if lived, has the power to heal both your mind and the earth itself. Asterisk, what is eco-anxiety and how Matthieu Ricard sees suffering is transformative. Energy. Have you ever noticed how your chest tightens when you read about rising temperatures, floods, or forests burning thousands of miles away? That sensation has a name: eco-anxiety. It's the silent companion of our times. People often think it's just sadness, but it is more than that. It's the body's way of saying, this matters to me. The earth is not separate from me. Matthieu Ricard, the French scientist who became a Buddhist monk, reminds us that suffering itself is not the enemy. Think about it. When you touch a hot pan, pain pulls your hand away before your skin burns. In the same way, eco-anxiety is not just despair. It is a signal, a call to wake up. He says, if you learn to listen, the energy of fear can become fuel for compassion. Now, how do you start listening? Begin small. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and the first thing you do is step outside barefoot on the ground. 5 minutes just. 5. Feel the soil, the grass, or even the cold cement if you live in a city. Your anxiety begins to shift because your body remembers, I belong here. You don't need a Himalayan monastery to feel connected. You just need to step outside your own door. And there's something else. Instead of drowning in headlines about climate doom, Ricard would suggest balancing it. For every article about disasters, read a story of regeneration. Did you know that in India, volunteers planted 66 million trees in a single day? That story exists too. Try reading about these acts of hope before you go to sleep. You'll notice your mind doesn't only collapse into fear, expands into possibility. Suffering, then, is like compost. Alone it stinks, but mixed with attention and compassion, it becomes fertile ground. The question is, will you throw your eco-anxiety into the trash, letting it rot inside you? Or will you turn it into soil for something new? Ricard insists. Every feeling, even the restless ones, can be transmuted into energy for the good. And here is where most people stop and wonder. All right, I understand my eco-anxiety is not useless, but how do I actually transform it? That, my friend, is where meditation becomes not just a practice, but a medicine for the restless mind. Asterisk, Matthieu Ricard, and the science of inner ecology. Matthieu Ricard often calls himself a happiness researcher. Imagine that a monk who once left a career in science to dedicate his life to understanding the architecture of joy. What makes his teaching so powerful is that he doesn't separate the well-being of the mind from the well-being of the planet. For him, they are threads of the same tapestry. He explains it simply. If your mind is restless, greedy, or consumed by fear, you'll act in ways that harm the earth. But when the mind is stable, compassionate, and clear, your choices naturally align with care for the planet. Inner ecology creates outer ecology. It's like tending the soil of your own heart before you plant seeds in the ground. You may ask, but how do I begin? Ricard suggests cultivating altruism daily, not as a lofty idea, but as small, concrete actions. For example, instead of scrolling endlessly on your phone, use 5 minutes to send a message of encouragement to someone you know is struggling. This is meditation in motion, compassion applied. And here's the twist. The more you do this, the more your brain rewires itself toward happiness. Neuroscience confirms it. Think of it like strengthening a muscle. The more you practice compassion, the easier it becomes. In fact, brain scans of long-term meditators like Ricard show unusually high activity in the areas linked to empathy and joy. Isn't it fascinating? Happiness, it turns out, is not a gift from luck. It is a skill you can train. And perhaps here lies the bridge between your mind and the earth. Because when you become skilled at happiness, rooted in compassion, your natural instinct is to extend that compassion outward to rivers, forests, animals, even to strangers you will never meet. Ricard often says, altruism is not a luxury. It is a necessity for survival. A necessity not just for you, but for the future of humanity. But if happiness is a skill, and compassion is its foundation, then the next question is, how do we weave this inner ecology into our everyday rhythms, especially in a world overflowing with distractions? That, my friend, leads us deeper into the practices that rewire not only the mind, but the culture we live in. Altruism in action. The daily practice of a wider heart. Matthieu Ricard often says that altruism is not something to admire from afar, it is something to practice. A bit buyer. Think about it. You would never leave the house without brushing your teeth, right? What if caring for others, including the earth, became just as natural, just as routine? Let's make it concrete. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see a piece of plastic blowing across the sidewalk. Most people would think, not my problem. But an altruistic mind sees it differently. It bends down, picks it up, and places it where it belongs. That tiny gesture may not change the entire world, but it changes your world. It trains your brain to say, I am responsible. Do this daily and watch how your sense of connection grows. Ricard often reminds us that altruism doesn't have to be grand. You don't need to donate a fortune or fly across the globe to volunteer. Sometimes, it's as simple as pausing before you speak. Think of a conversation where someone irritates you. What if instead of reacting, you took one breath and chose kindness? That single moment shifts the energy of the whole interaction. In the long run, it rewires your relationships. And here's a little secret experiment you can try once a week. Perform an anonymous act of kindness. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you. Leave a book you love on a park bench with a note that says "for you." Or plant a tree without telling anyone. These small invisible gestures carry a strange magic. They free you from the need for recognition, and they expand your heart quietly, steadily. Science backs this up. Studies show that acts of generosity light up the brain's reward system more powerfully than receiving rewards yourself. Think about that. The brain is literally designed to feel joy when we give. Ricard likes to say, living for oneself alone is a prison. Living for others is freedom. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Altruism practiced daily doesn't just shift your personal life. It begins to influence culture. Imagine neighborhoods where kindness is the default. Offices where cooperation outshines competition. Cities where environmental care is a shared responsibility. This isn't fantasy. It's the ripple effect of individuals choosing altruism, their ordinary routines. But then comes the deeper question. If altruism is both a personal practice and a cultural force, how do we scale it so that it becomes a real answer to the crises of our times? That question takes us into territory even Ricard himself often explores. the merging of inner transformation with systemic change. From inner kindness to global transformation, Matthieu Ricard often reminds us, a single candle may not light the whole city, but it can ignite another flame, and then another, until the darkness no longer feels so heavy. The same is true of altruism. When one person lives with kindness, it influences families. When families shift, communities shift. And when communities shift, entire nations begin to breathe differently. Think about it, most of the crises we face today, from climate change to inequality, are not caused by a lack of intelligence. Humanity is clever enough to solve them. What we lack is a culture of compassion. Without altruism, knowledge becomes just another weapon. With altruism, knowledge becomes healing. Ricard often gives the example of education. Imagine if schools taught not only mathematics and science, but also empathy and mindfulness. What if children grew up learning how to care for the planet as naturally as they learn the alphabet? That simple reorientation could reshape the future in ways no technology alone could achieve. And yes, this vision is not just poetic, it is practical. Companies today are experimenting with compassionate leadership, where success is measured not only in profit, but in the well-being of employees and the communities they serve. Countries like Bhutan have even developed the gross National Happiness Index, reminding the world that well-being is not only about money. Ricard himself has been an advisor in such conversations, proving that altruism belongs not only in monasteries, but in parliaments and boardrooms. But perhaps the most radical idea Ricard plants in us is this: the transformation of the world begins in silence, within each of us. Every choice, what we buy, how we speak, how we treat strangers, becomes a vote for the kind of world we want to live in. The ripple begins invisibly, but its echo is unstoppable. And here lies the great invitation. If altruism can rewire a brain, heal a family, inspire a culture, and shift an economy, what might it do for the future of humanity when practiced at scale? That question, left unanswered, opens the doorway to an even greater exploration. The possibility of building entire civilizations around compassion. Asterisk, the echo of compassionist Matthieu Ricard reminds us every gesture of kindness, every moment of mindful attention is a seed. It may seem small, almost invisible, but seeds grow. They push through stone, they stretch toward the light, and they change the landscape quietly, persistently, inevitably. Now imagine your life as a field. Every action rooted in compassion waters this field. Every choice to act with empathy enriches the soil. Even your worries, your eco-anxiety become nutrients that feed growth rather than weeds that choke it. And this is the true power of practicing altruism daily. It is not about perfection, but about persistence. Pick up that piece of litter, smile at a stranger, spend 5 minutes in meditation, send a kind message to someone struggling, plant a tree, read a book that inspires you to care more deeply for life itself. Each act is a brushstroke painting. A better world. Ricard often says that joy and compassion are inseparable. The more you cultivate one, the more you naturally cultivate the other. And here's the invitation he leaves quietly, like a whisper in the mind. What if the person you impact today is the beginning of a ripple that travels farther than you can imagine? So as you reflect on the lessons here, remember this: transformation begins inside, it grows with attention, it spreads with action, and it echoes beyond what any single person can see. If you felt even a flicker of that energy, let it move through you. Share this message below with one small action you will take today. Subscribe and join this journey, not because it's trendy, but because you choose to be part of something larger than yourself. Every like, every share, every engagement is another candle lighting the world. Let curiosity guide you, let compassion move you, and let your actions ripple outward. And as you step into tomorrow, remember, the field is waiting. The seeds are in your hands, and the echo of your heart is the first sound of change.